All right, thumbs up. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Robertson. I would like to welcome you all to the first inaugural AMA with Brendan LaSalle. How's it going, Brendan?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on, and thank you, and to all the Fantasy Ground users, big cheers and welcome, and thank you for checking us out on our little program today.
So we put this together because there's often some hotly debated questions in the Discord and Facebook channel about the openness of the rules and the interpretation. So a lot of fans and community wanted to put some questions together and pose them to you to see what your take on them is. And you
Absolutely.
guys are more than welcome to put the questions in chat. We'd love to hear from you, and we're keeping an eye on that. So fire your questions away and stay tuned until the end because we got a little surprise for Brendan.
Ah, nice.
Um,
Cool.
let's get right into it with the first tough question. How do you determine a monster's fumble dice?
Okay, so rules as written, you would only go by whether or not they had armor or not, which would essentially mean one die four would be their fumble die if they didn't have armor, or if they were, like, let's say the creature was an armored humanoid. You know, his fumble die would go up from that. However, recently, what's up, Grape Ape? How you doing? However, recently, is that you?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
me.
cool. Oh, that's a good name, Grape Ape. You should I should make up Regal Beagle and come hang out with you on there.
Right?
But however, recently they had there's one of the new books. It's the yearbook number 8. There are new fumble rules in there, which essentially has you. Every monster starts off with a D10 for fumble, which is then modified up or down the die chain depending on the target's luck score. So if their luck score was, say, a 13, then it would be their fumble. The target's luck score was a 13, then the monster's fumble die would jump up to a D12. And then they've got fumbles in there for every kind of book. So I recommend that highly. I changed it up. I realized that a die 4 is not always adequate. So if you're just going to do it on the fly, sometimes I think before the fight decide, all right, this creature is awkward and it should have a higher, fumble die for whatever reason, especially if they're using, weapons or that kind of thing. So.
Well, that's a great mechanic because, as players, we burn that luck score like crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
so if there's another consequence of, the luck score, uh, that's all the more reason to put it in there. So do you think that'll get added into the next alliteration of the rule book, or?
Probably not. There will never be another iteration of the Dungeon Crawl Classics core book. We are going to put out new content, new adventures. We'll put out the occasional things that add to, but the DCC pledge is never going back and messing around with the rules. There will never be another edition of the Dungeon Crawl Classics rules.
That's nice. Good to know. Excellent.
So,
So we got kind of a little fun question here from DM Bad Wrong Fun on Discord.
oh, nice.
Uh, Brendan, often enough when a player is rolling attack, you'll say something like, "All right, that's a rock and roll 16." What makes that result rock and roll? And could there possibly be a jazzy or hip hop result?
That's an excellent question. It's a rock and roll 16 because it's hit and it's at my table. I don't dress well enough for it to be a hip hop or a jazzy 16. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have to really put an outfit on for that. I would. I mean, I could put together a hip hop. I'm a hip hop kid myself. I could totally put together a hip hop 16 outfit, but it would really be. It'd be very, very warm, and have to have a hat too. So I'm probably going to stick with that for now. But yeah, in your own game, yeah, absolutely. I want to see somebody's polka 16. That's definitely a polka 16. You made it, so I want to see it happen.
All right. And so going a little bit off the Grape Ape. So Grape Ape is the first cartoon I remember ever watching as a kid. What is the first cartoon you ever remember watching?
Ooh, there was one I was obsessed with when I was a kid called Fantastic Voyage, which I think was actually like a 50s or 60s cartoon, but it was based on that movie Fantastic Voyage where they would shrink down and go inside someone's body to, like, I forget, I think they had to fight their cancer off or something like that. And it was one of those monster of the weeks. They were always the Fantastic Mission team was always getting shrunk down to, go inside of someone's body and do something, and one of them could do magic. It was, I don't know. When I was a kid, I used to have nightmares about that, like, these things traveling around inside my body and having adventures without me. So that's one that I really, like, go back to the earliest. I'm sure it came out before I was born, but I caught it on reruns. So
Nice. So we've got a question from Arch Typo. When can I get my hands on a copy of You Can't Do That Next Crawl? Apparently he was in one of your games and says it was
nice.
fun as hell.
Oh, thank you.
And he wants to run it for his players.
Ooh, thank you, buddy. You Can't Do That Next Crawl. I will say it is written, and it's got doesn't have art yet, but it will be. I will say, look for an announcement before too terribly long. It very well might wind up wrapped up in the Crawl Classics Kickstarter, which I also don't have a specific date for, but not too much longer. And thanks very much. I'm glad he had a good time with that. I still love running that adventure. It's one of my favorite DCC adventures to run, or Crawl DCC adventures to run.
Do we think the Crawl Kickstarter is going to be this year?
I would love to say 100% yes, but obviously these are crazy times and a lot of things have happened, and our schedule's been thrown off in a lot of ways we couldn't predict. And but I would say I mean I can say that the writing is done and that we've done like multiple editing passes of it. I feel like it's been play tested pretty well, although I say that and like just yesterday I saw something like I ran Crawl Classics yesterday and thought, oh wait, maybe I'll fix that. So maybe but I would say it's art's coming in now. Brad McDevitt's already turned in a whole bunch of really great art for it that I looked at, and the cover's already done. So like soon.
So we've got our first question from the Twitch chat from Quizzle2K,
Gotcha.
And this kind of goes with another question that we have.
All right.
Can you spend luck points to add to your damage roll? I think the question we had originally had listed was, so is luck expendable only on D20 rolls, or can you literally use it on anything?
Gotcha. All right. Rules as written. You can spend luck on any die check in there. At one point, somebody asked me, "Hey, can I spend luck on my deed die check?" And I was like, "I don't think so." But Joseph's on his way over here, and I'm going to go ahead and ask him when he gets here. And I asked Joseph, and he was like, "Yeah, I guess so." So, the way, what's up, Yorkus? As rules as written, you can spend luck on any die there. That is, however, the most altered, the most home-ruled thing in the entire game. So a lot of judges will not let you spend luck on damage or on deed dice or on other type of things. But rules as written, you can spend luck on anything.
All right, there you go. You guys heard it here first.
Hey, Little Caesar's in the heroes. What's up? I had that's one of my guys. Little Caesar was one of he was our athlete from my Kansas City Kill Feed last night here at ReaverCon. Good to see you, bud.
So let's get into a funner question.
Yes.
How many animals do you have?
I have 3, and one is lazier than the next. One's actually asleep right here. I have 2 cats. Esme, who is currently asleep over here, didn't even look up when I said her name. And I have Trokio, who's downstairs probably hanging out with my wife. And I have a dog, Bobby T. Puggle, and she's actually spending the weekend with my mother-in-law, which she does most weekends, where she is, my mother-in-law, dotes on this dog, feeds it, cooks it an egg for breakfast every day, and, it's like paradise for her. So she can't wait to slip out on the weekend to go hang out. So I got the 3, and, love them dearly. They make me nuts. I love them dearly.
Any certain kind of breeds running around the house, or?
My cats are, parts unknown cats. Bobby is actually a puggle. Bobby is a legit, according to Hoyle, one of those designer dogs, which we got her as a rescue dog. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't ever order a dog by its species. But she's the definition of puggle. She's all of the worst parts of the beagle mixed up with the body dysfunction of a pug. So God love her. She's a sweetie, but oh boy,
that sounds like a DCC kind of dog.
Oh my God, yeah. She has been referred to before as my familiar, which I definitely think is possibly true.
All right. So a question from Muddy Three Boots on Discord. If a wizard is suffering from major stamina spell burn when the character levels up, do you make them roll for hit points with their current stamina modifier applied?
No, I would make them roll for hit points with their standard modifier, but they wouldn't actually achieve that level of hit points until their stamina healed back up. So their maximum number will still be based on their normal stamina, but it won't actually hit that number until until all of their spellburn heals and it's back in place.
And so, speaking about spellburn a little bit, when a wizard does spellburn a lot of stamina or stuff, and their natural score goes down, they lose hit points.
Yeah.
Is that just like one hit point, or is it a die roll?
Oh no, they would lose just the modifier. So let's say you've got a second level wizard whose stamina he spends some points and he jumps from a 12 to an 8. Okay, he spends 4 points. So in that particular case, hey Jess, in that particular case, their hit points, since they're a second level wizard, their hit points would be reduced, since their modifier goes from a 0 to a -1, their hit points would be reduced by 3. Okay, so it would be for second level, first level, and their 0 level die 4. And they wouldn't get those points back. That would be their new maximum until they healed back those points. It would also affect their fortitude save and any stamina skill checks they have to make.
Okay, so we got a question from Ravencrow King, and he wants to know: do you guys expect to be at GaryCon in 2022? And so maybe kind of expanding on that, what's the convention schedule looking like? When can we expect to see Goodman Games in person at cons again?
Sure. I would say you will probably not see us at any conventions this year. We looked into it, but we just, who knows how things are going to be. Everything has been so up in the air that we haven't been able to commit to anything. I do think next year we will probably, barring the unforeseen, barring a magical 8th wave that what I mean? So, barring, all the craziness, I imagine that you will see us returning to physical conventions in 2022, and that if that is the case, I imagine that Gen Con will, yes, be one of them, but I can't commit to anything on behalf of Goodman Games, but we certainly miss it. I didn't get my meeting that we have our one live meeting where we all get together and can actually look each other in the faces as we're eating cheese fries and planning the next year. So I was for a million reasons I'm sad I couldn't get to Gen Con. That is just one of them. I'd imagine you'll probably see us back there next year.
And does Joseph foot the bill for that meeting, that all staff meeting? Does he buy the food for that event?
Yes. In fact, I'll go ahead and tell a little trivia. I'm actually the advocate for the penny pinching approach to that. So I'm always no, take it to the, we can't go to that place. We got to go here, So for the longest time, I scouted out this great, it's gone now, but there was this great all-you-can-eat Indian restaurant where this would typically take place. And it was perfect. It was very reasonable beer prices and delicious. And huge, we could push a whole bunch of tables together and have all 45 of us in this one big spot there, So that was, so Joseph does pay for this meeting, and I'm always saying less, cheaper, because I grew up with 2 Depression era parents, and just cheap.
Yeah, I completely understand how that goes. Yet another reason for everybody to try to get into Goodman Games employment, though. What kind of house rules, if any, do you tend to use in your games? Muddy Three Boots wants to know. And X-Crawl does not count as a house rule.
Fair enough. We got spam in the chat room. Get rid of that. Spammers. Okay, so not including X-Crawl, my typical house rules. On a tie in initiative between a monster and a player, I always have the players go first. I actually don't dock people's stamina unless if you just get down to 0, but you get healed before you actually die and have to get into roll the body checks. I don't actually dock anybody's stamina unless they actually get down to that roll the body check point. So if we do a successful roll the body check and your character comes back, then I dock you a point of stamina, but I don't dock it unless otherwise than that. I let thieves backstab with a ranged weapon within 1 range increment. That's never really been completely detailed, but that's my own personal take on it. and probably a couple others. But this is actually well, yeah, I can't. I let people reverse spells with a D16 check without having to have it memorized. That counts. So.
Talking about the tie, ever since I've played for the past year and a half or so, I think that's how I've always, everybody's always ran it. So I think that rule, it's not really written in the book like that, or?
I don't think it's defined. But if it is, I don't remember how it is defined.
Yeah, everyone I've ever played with has used that, so that's definitely a good rule right there.
Mm-hmm.
BTR75 would like to know, should thieves be able to sneak as part of their movement, presumably from behind or along a somewhat concealed path in order to backstab? Per the DCC rules, an unaware enemy in the same round.
Yeah, absolutely. If your hidden thief wants to creep up behind a character, I would absolutely call for a sneak silently check under normal circumstances. I'm calling for a sneak silently check for you to actually sneak up, and you can do that as part of your move, and then go ahead and get that backstab in. And I usually have my own, again, okay, here's a house rule. It's not really defined in there, but I figure if you sneak, you have to go a little bit slower. So the DCs for sneak that are given in the book, I keep standard as long as someone doesn't go any more than half their movement rate. So if you're a normal unarmored thief or wearing leather, you can go 15 feet in your round and be sneaky. But if you want to go a full move, I allow that, but I increase the DC of everything by 5. It's very possible to quickly sneak up behind someone. I mean, we've all seen it, done it, but it should be more difficult.
Yeah, and a little second part to his question was already, mentioned sniping, but you kind of already mentioned that. I don't think I've ever played that where the thief can use a backstab on a ranged weapon. I like that a lot.
I mean, I think the classic thief popping up from behind a thing and throwing a dagger. I'm not going to be the one to say you can't do that and get a backstab in. You know what I'm saying? That's a genre classic that I shall not sully.
All right, we have another question in chat from Ravencrow King, and I think probably a lot of people want to know this.
Okay.
What is your secret to having so much energy? Is it coffee? Is it 8 hours of sleep?
I make sure I get my coffee. I do tend to try to get a lot of sleep, and conventions, like at conventions, I'm usually the first one in bed at any given convention. Brett Brooks makes fun of me. We're always roommating. I go to bed early, and then when I'm on the road, I hit the gym beforehand. I try to get 20-25 minutes in of a little bit of weights or some cardio or something like that. Just a little something to kind of get my energy peaked up. And then I try to eat healthy. My old rule when I was younger, my old rule was one healthy meal during every convention. And, I'm 50 now, so now I'm like, all right, you get to have one gross meal. You know what I mean? Like one, burger and fry meal out there. And I try to eat healthy for as much as I can. Obviously, sometimes you just can't. Sometimes, you go to a place and they provide food and it's pizza and you got to do it. But when I buy it for myself, I try to make sure I eat healthy as much as I can. Little exercise goes a long way.
Yeah, that's true. So BK McDevitt 100, I think that's Brad. Yeah, Brad McDevitt. He wants to know how important it is to develop characters in between adventures, and how do you? Probably more in a campaign setting.
Yeah.
But how would you run that? Would you have a separate session for things they want to do, like start a shop or?
I'll tell you, I would try to fast forward through all that stuff. I wouldn't want to have to role play characters through hiring carpenters and, getting a land permit. I would kind of say, okay, your character between adventures, you want to open a shop up, using your example. Sure, I would say it's going to cost you this much money, it'll take this much time. If I thought there was a chance that you might not be able to, or that there might be a complication, maybe some kind of die roll, let's say you're trying to do that in Lankmar, open up a shop. Well, here comes there would be a queue of protection racketeers lined up outside your door waiting to get you as one of their, people that's kicking upstairs for protection. So if there was the possibility of a complication, then I might get into some die rolls and I might make it one roll and say, well, either you succeed at your die roll and then no problem, this can all take place off stage, or you fail for whatever your check happens to be, and then we would actually have to get it in there, do some role playing and whatever. But I mean, yeah, I certainly think I'm a big advocate of people being able to do stuff between adventures with me not having to actually educate them. But my one GM thing that drives me crazy, I hate role playing shopping trips. You know what I mean? Like, like literally, you know, my player says, "Wait, I'm going to run into the shop." I'm like, "All right, what do you want?" But he's like, "Hey there, shopkeep. What can I?" Suddenly, I'm like forced to work retail. You know what I mean? On top of everything else, and it's like, you know. So, you know, I just try not to do that. So I try to let all of that, unless there's some real reason for it, or I have a reason to make it interesting, like, you know, Dark Trails, old Wild West town. I'll role play that little codger of a crazy store, you know, dry goods store owner, and be a coot and all stuff. But yeah, I'm not gonna. I try to just sail on by those things off stage, you know, and say, okay, well, it's going to cost you this much, or the book says 50, but he wants 100 because you're in the middle of no place, you know. But like, yeah, between sessions, I tend to fast forward. Now, if somebody wants to, if that doesn't work for everything, if this is like, you know, in between games, my character is going to ask around the city and try to figure out if anyone knows what happened to her birth parents. Okay, that's a quest at that point. That, I think that has to be its own session, you know. But yeah, just accounting and spending stuff, and you know, I'm a big fast forward guy.
And to put you on a spot, let's say you did have to, you're in one of those role play situations where it's a shopkeeper and you got to play retail. What would the shopkeeper's voice sound like? Probably, you know, a little bit perturbed, but can you give us a little improv shopkeeper's voice?
Are we fantasy? Are we sci-fi? What's the genre that we're in?
We'll say this is an MCC shopkeeper.
He's got like shopkeeper.
4 or 5 eyes.
Yeah. So you go past his armed guards and into the weird place. He's got everything where no one can reach it back behind him. And he is like, you have barter? I have items that you have barter. Other than this, you have nothing for me. Go. I don't want, you know, water, weapons, ammunition, battery cells. Other than that, you go. Go back to the desert.
Awesome. All right, we've got a question from Gossamer. She said she's still confused on attacks of opportunity versus withdrawal. This is a widely debated one too, because I think as the rules are written, it says opportunity of attack. It's not really an opportunity of attack, but they call it a free attack when you leave melee.
Yep.
The rules say DCC has no opportunities of attack, but the withdrawal section on page 95 reads like an opportunity of attack. How do you adjudicate the scenario of someone moving away from an engaged opponent? And maybe kind of to add on to that, when do they become engaged? Is it when they meet or when one strikes at the other one?
When one strikes at the other, I consider them engaged. If you are, like, imagine this, you and I, you know, or I'm the monster, you're the warrior there, and the wizard, like the cleric, comes up next to me and heals me between rounds. I don't consider him being engaged. He can walk away because we haven't actually taken a swipe at each other. But once I do, then he is there in that melee, and at this point, it goes on from there. Yeah, it's not a proper attack of opportunity because DCC rules as written, a lot of the things that are covered by attacks of opportunity won't provoke it. Only walking away from combat will actually, or like leaving an actual, you know, melee combat will do that. So, for example, you can drink a potion, or cast a spell, or do another. I forgot what they were called them in Pathfinder in 3.5, but there were rules for them. I don't remember what they were called. But yeah, like if you leave combat, you are going to take an attack. Now, if you don't want to, I will discuss alternatives. If someone wants to say, well, you know, can I try to make an acrobatics roll? Like, you know, can I try to roll out of there, or can I rush over to this thing and, as part of for my mighty deed of arms, can I leave this guy's orbit without him getting a free shot on me? I'll definitely educate things that way with clever description and you know, and good, you know, a good breakdown from the player as how their character is going to do it. But there's going to be a dice roll involved because I will definitely try to whack you on your way out.
Well, in talking about good description, we've got Quetzal2K in the chat. He says, what's the secret to being a great judge at the con? Is it descriptions? Is it voices? Is it game prep time before the session? What's some advice to be a great judge at a con?
Okay.
All of the above.
Yeah, I mean, those things are all important. You got to do enough prep. Okay, that's for darn sure. You know, you don't necessarily have to do voices. I have plenty of friends who don't, and their games are still very engaging. You know what I'm saying? And I have no problem with someone saying, he says to you in an incredibly deep basso profundo voice, "How dare you enter into my realm?" If that's just not it takes a lot to actually do that kind of thing. I mean, I do it, and a lot of GMs do, and that's always fun for me. But I wouldn't say it's a requirement of it. You know, I would say, what is your goal of gaming? To me, the only goal is fun at the table. That is the highest law, and everything else falls away from it. So I think that if the secret to being a good GM is reading the table and doing what will be fun for everybody and avoiding the things that is not fun for everybody. And I think that there are a lot of elements in there. There is, that means going quickly and proficiently. That means being entertaining and engaging. That means making sure that everybody at the table has a chance to shine and do their bit, and making sure that, that you've done your prep, that you've got an interesting scenario, and that you're ready to go off books when the players invariably go off the books, So I would say there's a lot, but the key is to not stress, don't ever think I'm not a good GM. But always be someone who's working on your skills, and then run all the games you possibly can, and then just work on it. I've played since '77, and I've been a professional, game rep and judge for a long time. So I've just had a long time to work on my games and a lot of opportunities. So don't ever think I am not a good GM yet. I have to work on it. I consider myself a disciple of the art of it, the art and craft of running games. I'm still working on mine, and I'm always finding things to improve on. I've got a million problems. So
I love to do different voices and stuff, and so I always have a bunch whenever I'm judging a game. But it always seems like by the end of the game, I'm always in an Irish accent for everybody, and I don't know how that happens. But I can never keep them straight.
That's so funny.
By the end of the adventure, everybody's Irish.
I will. You know what I will give though? I will give my secret. Okay, if I have one secret to GMing, it's visualization. Spend time, especially when you're working on your dungeon. Get that thing in your head. Get the dungeon in your head. What it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, and your NPCs, and that will help you keep your voices straight. Okay, because if in your head he doesn't look like a little Irish dude, then maybe you won't go there. You know what I'm saying? Like if you associate the shortcut for me is actors. I always think of, okay, I have a sentinel out here in the hallway. What actor would I get to play that sentinel in the movie, and what does he sound like? And that's my shortcut. When I come up with a quick voice, the first thing I do is think of what he looks like, and then, all right, who would he be? Who would that be? Okay, and then, it's just a quick shortcut to doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because half the times you're gonna get 2 lines as one of these guys before your players stab them to death, or cast spells and burn them to death, or whatever you have. I think if I have a secret, it's that I really work hard on visualizing the setting and seeing where everything is, keeping an idea of where everything is in space, and then what the monsters look like and thereby act like, sound like, all that.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. This is the Goodman Games Twitch channel, and just kind of a refresher for any new folks that have joined in. We're doing an AMA with Brendan LaSalle. If you haven't yet, hit the follow button on the bottom. And for anyone who watches this later, it's Twitch TV/Goodman Games Official. Give us a follow. We've got a good question from Zerio Curry, and it came up a lot last night in our playtest with Bob Brinkman on Crypt of the Devilich. He says, let's say you got a character with multiple action dice, D20, D16, D14 shield bash. How many deeds is that? Is that 1 deed for all 3 attacks, or do you roll multiple deed die?
Okay, so first thing, if it's a dwarf with a shield bash or any other character with a shield bash style thing, they get 1 of those per round no matter how many action die they have. Okay, so a dwarf with 3 action die can attack 3 times, and then the first one gets to get in there with his shield bash. I have actually gone back and forth. It's rare that I play an adventure with super high level characters, but if you don't let the fighters, warriors and dwarves, if you don't let them get a deed off per action die, then their power level doesn't rise along with wizards and other things that too can cast a spell on their action die, or a cleric that can heal someone with their spare action die. So I feel like, and this is again, I feel like it's up to interpretation. My interpretation is they would get one deed, like not your deed die, but one actual. I'll hit him in the neck. I'll hit him in the face. I'll poke him in the eyes. Whatever that deed happens to be, per action die that they roll.
All right, so kind of a fun question, a little bit more about you, Brendan. Out of all the places you've lived in your life, what's the place that you liked living in the most?
Oh, gosh. Okay, you know what? There were wonderful things about everywhere that I have ever lived. You know what I mean? Up to and including where I am right now, Kennesaw, GA. We have great catfish. There's several places you can go to. Big catfish fan. However, the one that I miss the most these days is Massachusetts. I was up there for 8 years. I loved my neighborhood. I miss being able to walk outside my door and see water. I miss being able to walk my dog at the park. We had all these parks nearby. Take the train into Boston, see a game, take the train out. I mean, it was very, 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 very cool living situation. It had its it had its problems, like everywhere else does, including rough weather and, let's just say, in a lot of cases, less than progressive ideas about, these people are that people. But I miss it terrible. Everywhere I've ever lived, I found something to fall in love with. So.
All right, we've got another question in chat. Taz Ariut says, how do you handle town guards or like the law? Being too easy for players of second or third level. It sounds like there's PCs breaking the law in town, maybe getting a little off books, kind of doing what they want. How do you adjudicate them kind of going haywire? Do you have like a law in your games?
Well, yeah, every city should. However, I mean, and this is the truth of it, is that your characters will, if they survive long enough, they will get to a level and a power level where there are no city guards that can hang with them. They might, you might say, oh, well, there's the master of the city watch, and he's an old warrior, but eventually he's not going to be third level though, or he wouldn't be a city guard captain. He'll be a retired adventurer sitting on a mountain of gold, or he'll be actually, adventuring someplace. Or who knows? Maybe he opens a bar. But I feel like, no, but that does not mean that when your players roll into town and start just abusing people, that they do not have recourse. I mean, think about how the cops do. Beat cop comes around and they chase him off. They come back with SWAT. So I would say that for your fantasy campaign, I mean, for a small city, if your third level DCC characters go to a city and it's got 100 people, if they decide to be jerks there's nothing. There might be cosmic consequences. I mean, that's the thing. Do they have a temple? Are there clerics there? Do they have, can they petition the gods for aid? Would the gods get directly, are there other adventurers that live there in the city? That might be a possibility, but, but if I'm that guard and here comes the third level wizard who just on a lark turned the bartender into a goose, you know what I mean? Just for funsies, I'm not going to go fight him. I'm going to go get help. And that help can take a lot of forms, including the other wizard that lives in the city, or those retired adventurers that do run the bar, or whatever, So, just play them smart. Play your guards like, these are, 10 silver piece a week guys who are not going to lay their lives, not going to run in and do something suicidal, but who have seen some situations and know that sometimes you have to go and come back with help. And that's actually one of the great things about DCC is, your players, even, I don't care what level they get to, enough guards, one of them's going to roll a 20. You know what I mean? I mean, unless your wizard casts sleep and puts the whole town to sleep. There's just nothing you can do it's DCC for God's sakes. But, but I feel like that, your PCs are almost never completely out of reach because of the way crits and fumbles work and because of the way combat works in general. You never know when that guy is going to get that lucky shot in, the rookie that killed Dillinger. You know what I mean? You never know when that's going to happen. So,
So another question from the Goodman Games Discord, and I think there was like 3 or 4 pages in discussion about this.
Cool.
There's only one use in the monster crit hits regarding a head strike, which seems kind of unfair because the helmet is listed as part of equipment that you can get from the D24 table, I think, in the initial equipment. What is your stance on the lack of the use in the helmets and how it's kind of incorporated in the game?
Well, I mean, I would consider every armor that you see in the list would automatically come with a helmet. It doesn't have to say that it does, just like it doesn't have to say that it comes with greaves, or shin guards, or codpiece, or whatever it happens to be. I would say that assume that my own rule for it is people are always a lot of folks have like lost or thrown helmets away. I reduce your armor class by 1 if you're not wearing your helmet. Do you hear me? Sam Wilson, new Captain America? Cover that dome, baby. We cover the dome. I know, you gotta look, but come on. So I would say if your warrior has half plate, which gives him +7, and for whatever reason he loses his helmet, I would generously say that will reduce his armor class by 1. Everyone goes for headshots, So yeah, I would say that. Sorry, my chair keeps slipping down. I keep slowly getting shorter and shorter here. So I would just assume that you're, and for somebody like the flip side of that, if someone goes into the world and they're just wearing a helmet, I give them a +1 AC for that.
All right, let's do a couple quick fire questions here. Just 1-word answers. Who wins in a fight, Conan, Tarzan, or Beowulf?
Beowulf, because Beowulf brings everybody. The point of Beowulf is that, why is Grendel Grendel? Because he's all by himself. Beowulf shows up with Wolfgar and the whole crew he can bring up there, and Conan gets chased off and Tarzan swings away. But if Conan has some setup time, it's Conan, and they're fighting in a jungle and he can summon elephants. I mean, come on, Tarzan. So it's complicated.
Right, these are supposed to be 1-word answers.
Oh,
all right. Quick fire questions. All right, how about grape or cherry?
Oh, grape, because cherry flavored everything gives me stomach agita.
All right, chocolate or vanilla?
Oh gosh, chocolate. 9 times out of 10.
Dogs or cats?
I love dogs and cats equally. I'm gonna say that's down the middle. You can't. They're different kinds of friends.
All right. So let's get back to the questions. This one's from Facebook. What are your rulings for helping others, like helping to open a heavy door, pulling a rope together, or other skill checks?
Yeah. I use a house rule that I came up with in like the 70s. It still works for me, okay? So I first figure out the maximum number of people that can help doing it, and that's just a common sense thing. I feel like you can't have more than one person help you, say, pick a lock, but you could definitely have 5 people help you pick up a heavy thing that's big enough for 5 people to pick up. You know what I'm saying? And then what I do is I have them all make that skill check. The highest number is the number, and then everybody who gets a 10 or better on their skill checks adds +1 to the highest person's. So if you have 5 people who are going to help lift up a heavy thing, they all make a strength check. Let's say the highest one there is a 14, and then it's 13, 12, 11, 10. Everyone that gets a 10 or better, I would add +1 to. So in that case, it would add to the highest number is a 14, that would add +3. So that'd be a 17. That's how I do it.
Okay. And we got one more question in chat from Caldonian 2. What system did you start with back in your youth?
I started with a Holmes Blue Book, Dungeons and Dragons. I think in '77 that was the home. There wasn't. I mean, unless you went to White Box, which I never played. Yeah, we played Holmes Edition. D&D was the first thing I ever played in. When I first played, and then I played like one lost weekend with a friend of mine when I was on vacation, and then probably went like half a year, maybe a whole year before I ran into some friends who were then playing early AD&D. That was my Boy Scout troop. So, Pack 48.
Nice. So Trevor in Discord asks, most judges don't allow luck burn on a deed roll. When and why did you start allowing that? We kind of touched on a little bit about adding luck on any dice roll.
All right. So,
but do you only allow that in convention games? And
no, I absolutely allow it in my home game. So, okay, consider this. Okay, let's say the wizard adds 2 point to their whatever spell you want to have. Let's say, what's a good one for this? Let's say animal summoning. Okay, and now instead of being able to get a 2-hit die animal, they can get a 2-hit. They can get a 3-hit die animal or something like that. I feel like if you're going to let wizards use luck to increase their spell check, which everyone does, then if you don't let the argument against letting and again, this is completely GM preference, and I absolutely respect the way other GMs do this. It's your table. Do whatever makes the most sense to you, whatever is going to be the most fun, and whatever is going to be the best story. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I like, the allowing disallowing a warrior to add luck points to their deed die, I think really, messes them up. And I think that the potential for abuse is not even close to the potential for, like, adding 3 points to a spell check is way bigger than adding 3 points to a deed die. You might really whack one dude, or, let's say you might even take out one opponent. It's the difference between, like, let's say a clean kill shot on one opponent if you really want to burn that luck down, and, putting a whole neighborhood to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Or summoning a dinosaur, or, breaking the game in some other fundamental way. So that's my thought on it, but there are others, and I respect those.
Yeah, that makes sense. Muddy Three Boots wants to know, what do you enjoy most as a judge, and what do you enjoy most as a player?
I mean, I love roleplay in both, and I love funny roleplay sessions and could, like, do that. But, like, as a judge, like, there is that moment when a fight devolves into, like, this, like, I love a good complicated battle where people are fighting in different levels and there's different stuff going on. I love a good, like a bar fight where it's like this one's got the bartender, this one's got a chair, someone's being held in the water trough. Like, when there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, I love mayhem. I love mayhem. And I love a big fight that just gets, like, nigh out of control with, like, multiple elements. That's like, as a player, I love the opportunity to role play, and I try to, I really love experiencing different judges. Like, I guess I really love trying out new worlds and new systems. If I, like, I know people love campaign play. I sure do as well. But I love sitting down to a new game with a new character. Like, that to me, like that first day with the fresh sheet and everything, with all the possibilities, I love that. Now, mind you, part of that is probably because I haven't been in a full campaign in about 5 years, where I've played more than. Well, I mean, I just played. I just did the Shrouded Fen with Terry Olson and some cool people, and did. We did. I guess that went like 8 sessions. So that was a pretty minor campaign. But but yeah, I love sitting down with new dudes, new characters, and being like, let's do this. So.
Right. So, do you allow halflings to share their luck when they are bleeding out?
No, I do not. That is when they're at 0 hit points and unconscious. That's when the halfling needs your help.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not picky on. I feel like luck is. It's not like you're actually here. Take a luck point and tossing it across the room to a guy. I don't need you to be in visual range. I don't need you to even know what's going on in their situation for their. You're the lucky charm of the band, and you are the reason that the gods smile their favor, and the gods don't necessarily work line of sight. However, I draw the line at unconscious or dying.
All right, and from Facebook, the Goodman Games Facebook page, on the topic of Mercurial magic, the table doesn't explicitly say what happens on a negative number roll.
I know, right? Yeah, that drives me bonkers. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a wizard with a 5 luck, and if you do, God bless you. But if you have a wizard with 5 luck, I want to see what a negative 18 looks like on the Mercurial scale, So I dealt with that in X-Crawl. In X-Crawl, the Mercurial table goes for arcane spells, goes from negative 29 to positive 130, just in case. Yeah, I'm with you. I wish it was as well. It's it's funny to me that like, you know, the I've just run so much DCC that I've seen the same couple of Mercurial effects popping up again and again and again. So I'm always out there. Like, I always think, oh, I should find, I know there are alternate Mercurial tables out there, or I should write one. And then I don't do it, and then I you know. So, yeah, for me, I wish there were more Mercurial effects. What I really hate is the dead zone in the middle. You know, like that, like, no effect here, like, it drives me nuts. So I actually have my minor table, which appeared in the D50 book. And I use that all the time. You know, I use that minor table, like if at my table, if someone rolls in that thing, I'll give them the option. And then I'm always, at a convention, I'm always trying to get it on my phone, because I never think to carry it around with me. But,
well, yeah, and so I'll do a little shameless plug here. So in the module that I got coming out that I just wrote for DCC compatible, third party, Conspiracy of Ravens, I wrote up an alternate Mercurial magic effect, and one of them was "You are a hero." So I love that.
Oh,
you know,
that's nice.
For 1d7 days, you got to contribute your luck to your gold to the churches, and you got to take on all kinds of hopeless quests. So an anti-DC Mercurial effect.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is so cool. You know, you know someone's going to throw some alignment argument on you for it, but I still want to see it. That's so cool. That's a great Mercurial effect. You actually turns out you are, sir. So yeah, I love that.
All right. So Muddy Three Boots wants to know: have you ever pitched an idea to Joseph Goodman that was so crazy, so off the wall bonkers that he did not use it?
Yes, a lot of times. So for X-Crawl, typically the only thing we go back on are titles. Pretty much, if I say, here's an X-Crawl adventure I want to run, I want to set it here, you know, he might say, well, maybe not this year, but do this instead, whatever. But eventually, I can do what I want with it. But for, every DCC adventure that you see out there, with the exception of Neon Knights, every one of them out there, like A Hole in the Sky, my first one, I mean, that was like a 10 email chain. Like, you know, I was like, all right, here's my idea. And he's like, absolutely not, no. But I like this bit. Expand on that. And I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, it evolved closer and closer. And it became, here's the thing. You know, Joseph is excellent at this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? If he's like, that's been done, or that will make a dull adventure, or that's just too weird, listen to him, you know? This has been my experience. So he has sent me back to the drawing board again with the Neon Knights. I actually ran for like 3 years in conventions, maybe 2 or 3 years, like without, you know, before I ever pitched it. So that one was pretty tight. By the time it got to him, it was like, you know, like it was in more or less its final form. But every other thing I've done for him, we've gone back and forth on. You know, so, and sometimes it is because it's too crazy, you know, like, like, or like, you can't do that in 10,000 words. Yeah. Like, that's a very, you know.
Well, I just want to thank everyone in chat and Discord and Facebook for submitting all these questions. We still have a bunch left. What? Hold on. We got a special delivery here from the Dark Master, Joseph Goodman himself. He submitted some questions that you should know the answer to, Brendan. So let's see. Let's test your Goodman Games knowledge here.
All right.
True or false? The game that you ran at your house for Joseph and his friends more than 15 years ago was in the Regulators setting.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's true. It was that was my like pre-X-Crawl. That was the one that I wanted to see something happen to, or maybe it was post-X-Crawl. I don't remember which one came first. But my Regulators game. He ran a character type that came from the Dragon Mech game. He was a steam dwarf with a little bit of a smokestack in his head that I loved the image of. But yeah, that was my Regulators campaign, and ooh, that was a lot of fun. I'm sorry it never went anywhere, but I really enjoyed that one. Wow, good one. All right, keep going.
All right. Brendan and Joseph first met at a con where Bronchosaurus Rex and X-Crawl both premiered. Mm-hmm. Which con was that? A, Gamma Trade Show.
No.
B, Alliance Open House.
Probably.
C, Gen Con. Or D, Origins?
No, it was B. It was the Alliance Open House. I fanboyed. I was like such a fan of Bronchosaurus Rex, like, which is in a lot of ways is very much thematically like X-Crawl. And I walked over there, I'm like, you work for Goodman Games. I'm such a fan. He's like, I'm Goodman. I was like, woo! So,
All right, next one from the Dark Master himself. Harley Stroh was inspired to write his first DCC module after seeing what Brendan LaSalle DCC module on store shelves.
That is so cool. I actually know this one. I don't remember the number, but it is the Sunless Garden, which might be DCC number 10.
That is correct, sir. 3 for 3 so far.
Woo! Keep my job.
This adventure features a pirate captain with a secret habit, which the module only hints at, but a clever reader can deduce. That habit is A, drinking demon blood, B, cross-dressing, or C, pit fighting orcs.
It is B. You know, that almost threw me. It's B, cross-dressing. It's because he's not a pirate. I think he was a smuggler. But where do you draw that line? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's all same adventure. That's from Joseph always loved that. I just kind of like put it in the background there that he was. It's really funny because like years later, there's that movie Stardust that pretty much has. I think that in Stardust he's just a. I don't know what you would call him. They call him, you know, maybe he's gay, maybe he's not, or whatever. But like, yeah, I had the pirate captain had a secret sewing room in there with all these. I didn't say it so much, but had all these oversized women's gowns and that kind of thing. With the idea being that like, you know, he sort of like went off to do his own thing away from civilization so he could be who he really was. If that makes sense, you know.
So is he ever caught in women's garb or?
Actually, they are in the adventure as written. They're actually exploring those caves after those smugglers have been gone for years. So by the time you get there, he is already going on to whatever he's going to go on to. You're just sort of exploring their lair years after they disappeared. So,
all right. So you should know this one. Brendan has not worked at which of these jobs? A, repo man, B, forklift driver, C, bong tester, D, pawn shop counter jockey, or E, convention rep?
That would be bong tester C. I have never actually tested a bong. I imagine that the bong tester is the guy that works at the drum store that when the gongs come in. Is that what you call it? He gives them a thing there. I've never actually done that. I'm not that musical, but that's what I. But yes, I have been forklift driver. I have been a pawnbroker, convention rep, and the other one he mentioned. I'm sure it was
repo man.
And repo man. Yep.
Tell us a little bit more about the pawn shop counter jockey. What's the craziest item that somebody brought in?
I had a guy come in one time with a bag full of gold, all these little weird gold filigree stuff, and he pours it all on the counter, and I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to get an idea. I'm like, is this 10 karat, 14 karat? He goes, it's 12 karat. I'm like, 12? He goes, yeah, it's dental gold. And I realized that what he has there is a whole bag of fillings, sans the teeth. And I'm like, you know what? What's the best case scenario when you come in with a bag of fillings?
Right.
Grave robber is the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to be like, no. I made an excuse, but I was not taking your man's bag. And I'm talking about like a hefty, lunch, kids' lunch bag, paper bag, just, with a lot of, 50, 60.
Wow.
Right.
All right. Another one from Joseph. At GaryCon a long time ago, Brendan was bunking with Joseph and another person when someone in the room started a fist fight while sleeping.
Yeah.
Who was that was engaged in the sleep battle?
I was the victim of it, and the progenitor of that, the originator of the battle was Harley Stroh, who is amongst his amazing. He is absolutely one of the best people in the universe, and a great game designer, and in my top 5 all-time GMs. Is a heinous sleepwalker. So I got woken up with a punch to the face. I was like, ah! And, I didn't know what was going on, so I kind of roll out of bed, and I get my back against the wall, and I'm thinking, something's going on there. And, Joseph is yelling at us, and he's like, you had to see his face. He was like, ah! I was terrified. You know, it was that was at the Gamma Trade Show. That was in that was in Vegas.
That's crazy.
In Vegas, and he really got me too. Like he dinged me, and I mean, you know, I was laying there, so you know.
All right, last one from Mr. Goodman. Most early X-Crawl dungeons were limited in size because of something Brendan owned. What item was that?
Oh, that's so... I can't believe he remembers that. That is so funny. Oh, my God. We were goofing about this a long time ago. So, I learned... Okay, so, you know... I run so many games on the road that I just play test stuff and play test stuff and play test stuff. And I quickly realized that if I made arena rooms the exact size of my battle mat, it really saved a lot of time. So I had this battle mat that was like 110 feet, like, you know, squares is 10 foot. It was like 110 feet, I guess 5 foot squares, 110 feet by 100 feet. So there's like a lot of rooms in the old adventures that are 110 feet by 100 feet because it was the exact size of my battle mat. I can't believe he remembers that. That is so funny. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So, and this way I could go, okay, it's exactly this size, and then I draw a door and be like, all right, so, yeah, there's a whole lot of 100 by 110s going on in the early days. Oh, that is so cool. You remember that.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today, and thank you guys all the questions you have. Brandon, we weren't able to get to all of them, so maybe we can do this again.
Sure.
But the last question, can we use the answers that you've given as an official...
Official what, Matt? Matt froze up. We'll never know what the final question is. Official errata? Oh, guys, we'll never know. Matt's frozen. All right, well, if you're still watching, ooh, I'm taking over. The inmates are in charge of the asylum. Can we use this? He kind of blanked out there for me there. I know, right? Doc Love said no. Doc Love said whatever it is, absolutely out of the question. But I think he's lost internet connection there. How handy that it was the last question there. Oh, are you back?
Yeah, I think so. You got a little skip there. I mean, good timing. At least it didn't happen in the middle.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, give me that question again, please.
So, can we use the...
He froze again. Dude, this question is cursed. It's cursed, I tell you. So sorry. Nah, the answer is only the Dark Master knows. Sorry, Matt. But hey, I gotta get offline here because I got a whole rest of my that is the question that shall never be answered. Not on my watch, son. That question is clearly cursed. So we're gonna leave it behind us. But I want to say thank you for Matt Robertson for setting all of this up, and thank you for everybody at Fantasy Grounds for sending in your questions and for supporting Goodman Games. It's been wonderful having everybody. Appreciate all your questions, and if I can help do anything else in the future, let me know. And hey, he's back again. I was just wrapping up. Nope, he's still frozen. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and peel out now. But thank you all very much, and see you guys around the game table. Take care. Later.